Welcome back to Bible study. We are looking at the Bible readings for the 8th Sunday of Pentecost, and that's Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 2, verse 12 through 14, and chapter 2, verse 18 through 23, and Psalm 49, verse 1 through 12, Colossians chapter 3, 1 through 11, and Luke 12, 13 through 21. And let's begin with a prayer. Eternal God, you draw us near to us in Christ, and you make yourself our guest. In the cares of our life, make us always aware of your presence, that we may treasure your word above everything else. Through Jesus Christ, our Savior and Lord. Amen. So we get to start out this week with a book of the Bible that probably is not one that's frequently read. I will say it's... It's not one that I go like, hey, what should I read now? I'm going to read some Ecclesiastes. Yeah, that sounds good. It's, as you'll sense when we read this portion today, there's a lot in it that's, some say realist, others say cynical. So it just depends a little bit on your perspective. But I'll let John get us started today. And so this is from Ecclesiastes.
I'll read from this because it jumps all over the place.
Yes, it's a little easier to use the bulletin of that to keep. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Vanity of vanities, says the teacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. I, the teacher, when king over Israel in Jerusalem, applied my mind to seek and search out by wisdom all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to human beings to be busy with. I saw all the deeds that are done under the sun, and see all is vanity and a chasing after wind. I hated all my toil in which I had toiled under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to those who come after me. And who knows whether they be wise or foolish. Yet they will be master of all for which I toiled and used my wisdom under the sun. This is also vanity. So I turned and gave my heart up to despair concerning all the toil of my labors under the sun. Because sometimes one who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave all to be enjoyed by another who did not toil for it. This is also vanity and a great evil. What do mortals get from all the toil and strain with which they toil under the sun? For all their days are full of pain, and their work is vexation. Even at night their minds do not rest. This is also vanity.
Yeah, I think, isn't that nice and cheerful in a way? It's like, the other thing I was actually picking up on this particular time hearing you read it, and we had just been talking about that we are in our core peak heat summertime here, and that how often in this the toil was happening under the sun. You kept saying that, toiling under the sun, and I was like, oh, I feel so bad for the people out who work on air conditioners or the road work type people, and the people who really do their occupation keeps them outdoors as landscape workers. This roofers, is roofers. I mean, yeah, this is a tough. And homeless, absolutely. So anyway, it just that reminder that the sun can be a very harsh thing. So that word vanity, we were actually talking earlier before we started officially, and vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Johnny, what was that easy English or whatever version again? How did that put it?
Yeah, it said, what's that? Verse 2.
Yeah, verse 2.
I'm on the wrong chapter now. I'm sorry, I had to.
Okay, I'm sorry. You had to flip over to keep up to that. Yeah, so the word is in the Latin, which is vanite. Vanite, did you say?
Vanitas, vanitatis, omnia vanitas.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing has a purpose. Nothing that ever happens has a purpose.
Yeah. So I find that an interesting. So we get the word vanity from the Latin, and then there was a Latin version of the Old Testament. So I think that's kind of how it carried over. But then in the Hebrew, the word is Hubble is the word. And anyway, that's kind of how it sounds, Hubble. And I found this interesting, that same word is the root to the name of Abel, from Cain and Abel. So that's interesting. But the word itself is in meaning is more like vapor, breath, smoke. That's kind of the core of the word. That's so it's like something that doesn't last, something that is for a bit of time, and then it kind of goes away. And that's it. If you did have your Bible and you start read more of the in between, some of the stuff we skipped over, it is about how everything changes. Everything is, in a sense, it changes, but it doesn't last. I think that's probably it. So to me, it's not so much that it doesn't have purpose, it's more that it just doesn't last. Nothing we do in this world really lasts, is kind of the tone of it in general. And the person who's writing this is assumed to be Solomon. And there's a little part of me that wanted to say, yeah, and how much did Solomon toil under the sun? He was the king. He had everybody else out there doing it for him, but
I was going to say in my study Bible has
Mhm.
a little bit different,
yeah, okay.
different
Mhm.
take. Let me find it here. The book itself clearly says life itself is a vanity of vanities. The word vanity means breath or vapor, and thus speaks of life as quickly passing. Life is like a vapor indeed, in that it's like as thin as the vapors. Anyway, wherever we read the word vanity in Ecclesiastes, we should think not what is meaningless, but as what is quickly passing.
Okay.
And they
So-
talk about that
yeah.
only God is,
Yeah.
everything else is just from
Oh, okay. So like God is eternal. God is.
everything else you're doing.
We can
is
count
just-
on God all the time, but everything else
is
kind of
just
changes.
passing.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. I get that. And it'll be interesting because this week, when we get to the gospel, this week's gospel technically, I think, segues to what will be the reading for the coming week. And part of that one message is the one about do not worry, the birds of the air, the flowers of the field. Anyway, so I think that in a way that'll be like an additional comment on the fleetingness in a sense, but yet God is the one who still cares. God is the one who still looks after us. So anyway, if you just took this little portion we got to hear in the reading on Sunday, that again it's hard to say that leave you with like a sense like, oh, that's great, that's good news. But it is an awareness of reality that we cannot hold this life. Someone said you can't take it with you, right? Like it's gonna ultimately someone else will step in, someone else will have whatever we had, somebody else will.
Well,
So-
you see, I've often seen people who, whether at work or
Mhm.
whatever, that's all they're striving for something,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not taking time to smell the roses, so to speak.
Yeah.
They're just driven by
Mhm.
getting to the top or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
so they aren't spending time with their family, with their children, or they're
Mhm.
just totally focused
Yeah.
on this. But it's
Achievement, acquiring,
and how
but yet
often,
not enjoying
and how
who's
often
with.
that
Yeah.
towards the end
Mm-hmm.
they,
Yeah.
they say, why didn't I lost the childhood, I lost
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
time. So it was, in that sense, vanity. It was my vanity. I was trying to
Build your own little
build something,
empire, and then
yes.
you realize like that wasn't really what was so meaningful in the end of it. Kind of
You don't realize how fast life goes.
it. Yeah.
There's a song by Pink Floyd. It's called "Time."
Oh yeah.
Part of the song in there it
Yeah.
says you got life is long and,
Mhm.
and you have plenty of time to do stuff. And then in the next line it says, and then you look around and 10 years have gone by. And where'd they go?
Yeah, it's funny when you said that. It's so funny because now my ear, I was like, oh, I was hearing it for a moment. Well, okay, so the gospel is a story that is what meant why these different passages were chosen. And the gospel does reach about, how we think we can control a lot, how we think we should acquire a lot. And this does help put kind of perspective on it, and how again, nothing lasts, nothing, so it's kind of like a little bit is a bit, don't worry about it in a sense, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't try to do what we can. Doesn't mean don't work. It's not saying anything like that. But it does get to the part about relying on God. And I wish in a way they had included like one more verse after this one ended with verse 23. This is like, why didn't we get this verse included? This is verse 24, chapter 2, verse 24. There is nothing better for mortals than to eat and drink and find enjoyment in their toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat or who can have employment? And there's one more verse. For to the one who pleases him, God gives wisdom and knowledge and joy. So like there is a positive element in here, but it's like, why didn't we get to hear at least that bit of positive, and that we can enjoy this life, that again, instead of so focused on that future, that achievement, that acquiring, is like enjoying what is here and now, and the blessings that we have of family and of faith, and so that's. But even still, though, even those good things, he still says that the wind, it still disappears. Even that, like nothing lasts, is kind of a sense of it, except for God. But then there is, I think I'll share this just because we don't get to hear it as far as with the regular Bible readings, but it's kind of the tip-top passage that people do refer to from Ecclesiastes, and that's chapter 3 and verse 1 through 8. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. I find it interesting that a lot of the anyway, that it would end with peace. I kind of like that. That's the final, a time for peace is the final word. But it's a very thoughtful reflection, and it's just something that you might read every now and then and just kind of mull it over yourself. Just kind of reflect on it, So, well, let's keep going then with the psalm, and the psalm is a kind of somewhat similar tone to the Ecclesiastes passage. And so, Johnny, would you read that for us?
Hear this, all you peoples. Give ear, all you who dwell in the world. You of high degree and low, rich and poor together. My mouth shall speak of wisdom, and my heart shall meditate on understanding. I will incline my ear to a proverb, and set forth my riddle upon the heart. Why should I be afraid in evil days, when the wickedness of those at my heels surrounds me? The wickedness of those who trust in their own prowess and boast of their great riches. One can never redeem another or give to God the ransom for another's life. For the ransom of a life is so great that there would never be enough to pay it in order to live forever and ever and never see the grave. For we see that the wise die also. Like the dull and stupid, they perish and leave their wealth to those who come after them. Their graves shall be their homes forever, their dwelling places from generation to generation. though they had named lands after themselves. Even though honored, they cannot live forever. They are like the beasts that perish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, this is reflecting reality again. Now this one, for some reason, I can kind of grasp a little more easily than the Ecclesiastes, but it is just the bare truth. We all die.
That's where everybody has something. The whole world has something in common.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how rich you are, or famous you are, they're gonna die.
That's right. Yeah. So no matter where we are, what achievements, wherever we were born from, anything, and yet we do. Yeah, as humans, that is something we
My
always.
friend Dave collects his stuff.
Yeah.
He got mad a couple of weeks ago. I was talking to him.
Uh-huh.
He said, "What are you doing today?" I said, "I've been calling mortuaries." He said, "Why are you doing that?" I said, "Trying to get up top and big enough where you can take everything with you."
Oh gosh.
He got mad because he doesn't believe. I mean, he's 66 years old.
Yeah.
You might as well start getting rid of that stuff and leave it something for your son.
Yeah.
But
Well, the pharaohs sort of tried to do that, though, didn't they? For a while, they tried to build those huge things and then outfit it with a bunch of stuff so that they'd be there for their use or whatever.
It
So,
all got robbed.
and then it got robbed. Yeah. So then the Ecclesiastes and the Psalm were still correct. Yeah, vanity of vanities. Yeah.
I'm thinking more. I think about Ecclesiastes is fairly short, relatively speaking. It's
Mhm.
one of those things you can't take parts of it.
Yeah.
You probably
Yeah.
have to take the whole thing because it starts off with a kind of a shocking statement,
Mhm.
and then the rest of it kind of expands on it and explains what they really meant by
Yeah,
that.
I think so too. I just was there was one more thing I kind of popped back to the Ecclesiastes for a second. I did find this interesting. Martin Luther really liked Ecclesiastes, which surprised me because mostly he wanted things that talked about Jesus and God's grace. I mean, that's most of all that he's, loved to lift out of the Bible more than anything. But it says, Martin Luther said Ecclesiastes was a very beautiful and useful book, which on many counts deserves to be in everyone's hands and to be familiar to everyone. For Luther, the purpose and the aim of the book was clear, that we be content with the word and work of God and take pleasure in the gifts God has given and not strive for that which one cannot have. It's that it does describe in a way the what you were kind of thing you were saying, that we kind of want more and more and try to control more and more instead of just trusting in God. And so Luther liked it, I guess, because it points out the fallacy, the vanity of trying to think we can control things and instead of trusting in God. So
And I
that's
think
good.
most of these, they're not saying, don't do this.
Yeah.
They're saying, don't let
it take over.
your life,
Yeah.
become your God. So
Yeah, don't let it become your God. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too. Yeah. Okay, so the psalm is another like kind of reality check kind of thing, just sort of like the Ecclesiastes. And again, the main part of what we get to hear is like, yep, you're going to die. Everybody dies, But that's true and it's not wrong. And sometimes we do need to, because in our culture, like you were just saying, we kind of want to pretend we can outrun death, or we can sort of outfox death, or we can like take it with us somehow, which we can't. We think so like there's the science fiction movies where the people are put in a deep sleep and they're sent off on their spaceships, and then they're supposed to wake up like, decades or many years later. And, it's like we have these, science fiction things and stuff. But as of now, the truth is that verse where one can never redeem another or give to God the ransom for another's life. For the ransom of a life is so great that there would never be enough to pay it in order to live forever and ever and ever and never see the grave. And this is still true. This is written like, millennia ago. And the truth is still more than thousands. Yeah, this goes way back. So there's still nothing we can do to make. I mean, we have a lot of advancements with health. We can extend life, but there's still nothing that makes death not the end. There's nothing we can do. But what I do like about that verse is that, yeah, we can't, but God is the one who does through Jesus Christ. There's nothing we can do or give that would be enough to take death away. But Jesus is the one who does that because of giving his life for us on the cross. And so he does, and there's a verse in Mark's gospel, I think it is, pretty sure, where Jesus does say that he came to give his life as a ransom for many. He give his life as a ransom for many. That was Jesus said that. So yeah, that's a gift. It's not something we do. Now there is one other verse in here that we didn't hear that was also a little more positive. It actually does look to God as one who will be the one who can save us. But at this moment, they were still talking about in this life, not life everlasting. It says, verse 15, but God will ransom my soul from the power of Sheol, for he will receive me. So there was a hope that God would still rescue one from death closing in quite yet, right? And so I don't know. I don't know if it's helpful. I mean, does this feel like it's something you should read every now and then? Is it helpful to be reminded we all die? Does that doesn't feel like it's an awareness I feel the need to be reminded of, because I feel like I am aware. But maybe if you weren't, maybe if you were kind of hiding yourself from that truth, it might be important to kind of have that message given to you again.
If you're a pastor, you get frequent reminders.
I get more frequent reminders than your average person.
And I think the younger you are, the less you're thinking
Mm-hmm.
about it. Because
That is very true.
It's going to last forever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even something that enters your mind.
When you procrastinate at our age, what are you waiting for?
That's right.
Well, and it does remind me, and I need to start really getting serious about my own advice. But I truly believe that it is a good and a caring thing. Two things. It's good for oneself, actually, to really think about what would you like for your funeral or memorial or whatever. Are there Bible passages you would love? Are there hymns you would love? Other aspects of it you would like to have happen? I think that that's actually a really good thing to have put some of that together. I feel like you're actually both, it's good for yourself to consider that, but it's also good for your family, because when you pass away and none of that has been established, now those people have to figure everything out. So I feel like it's being actually caring and loving towards your family to have at least put some of that stuff in place. My mom had done that too before she died. So
Well, and this is Johnny, just at our age,
mm-hmm.
You're more acceptance
Mm-hmm.
of it, and it's not morbid at all. It just you accept that's that.
Yeah.
Especially when you have had so many friends
Mm-hmm.
that you grew up with that passed.
Yeah.
You sit there and say, okay,
Yeah.
I'm doing fine, but inevitably,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not being morbid at all.
No, it's just knowing that's part of our life.
Myself, I'm very positive about it. And that,
I think I asked you that, remember, 2 weeks ago? What do you feel about dying when you get older?
Mm-hmm.
You told me you just to learn to accept.
yeah, you accept it. It's going to happen, and at some point. And then you get this quality of life decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you are in a situation, at what point do you just say enough?
Yeah.
Enough.
Without going too deeply, I mean, that's actually a wise thing too, is like, people should have like whatever their will, their medical power of attorney, their living will, their instruction in case I've become this level of health. This is what I want. I mean, no, seriously, that really is something everyone should do.
'Cause
And yeah,
if you don't, the doctors, they will try everything they possibly can to prolong your life, whether you would really want it.
and maybe that's not what you'd
It
want
may not
at
what you
all.
wanted
Yeah,
at all.
yeah,
The additional readings that you had from Colossians, where it was talking about getting pleasure from the work that you do,
hmm,
that never goes away. I mean,
yeah,
so many people, when
yeah.
they retire, they're congratulating, and the person who's retired has been very perfectly happy and fulfilled by the work that they've been
Yeah,
doing.
it wasn't
That's-
really this great
and-
burden, or yeah, yeah,
and there's
yeah.
nothing. I mean, it's saying right in the
Yeah.
Bible, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and that we should hopefully find enjoyment in our toil, is that you like that word. Well, we let's you know what? I'm gonna say just for today, we'll actually skip Colossians, because I'd rather not like cut real short of the well, okay, let's just hear it, not have to really discuss it. We can hear it. And Fred, would you be comfortable reading the Colossians reading?
Sure. So if you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are on earth, where you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, is revealed, then you will also be revealed with him in glory. Put to death, therefore, whatever in you is earthly: fornication, impurity, passion, evil desire, and greed, which is idolatry. On account of these, the wrath of God is coming on those who are disobedient. These are the ways you also once followed when you were living that life. But now you must get rid of all such things: anger, wrath, malice, slander, abusive language from your mouth. Do not lie to one another, seeing that you have stripped off the old self with its practices, and have clothed yourself with the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge, according to the image of its creator. In that renewal, there is no longer Greek and Jew, circumcised and uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave and free, but Christ is all and in all.
Mm-hmm. Well, so the one thing I will just say was, to me, after the phrase in the psalm that said that there's nothing we could do that possibly redeems us from the grave, there's no way we could do that. No human can accomplish that. Then it goes on, and it was because it talked about our baptism right before this. And so because we've been baptized, we have died and we have risen with Christ. That was the part right before it. So it says, so if you have been raised with Christ, meaning not if is it a question, but assuming this has happened, then you are a new creation. You are a new person. You are, your life belongs to God. And because your life belongs to God, that means there's some things that are the human way that are not, no longer who you are. So sometimes we fall back into that, but he's just trying to remind them that that's not it's like you move from one country to another country. That was the ways in the old country. Now you live in this new country, which is God's country. And this is, there's these new ways. I do want to get to the gospel story. And so we'll just go to Luke 12 and 13 through 21. And Jeff, do you want to read that?
Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Friend, who set me to be a judge or an arbitrator over you?" And he said to them, "Take care, be on your guard against all kinds of greed, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions." Then he told them a parable. The land of a rich man produced abundantly, and he thought to himself, "What should I do? For I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, "You fool, this is the very night your life is being demanded of you, and the things you have prepared, who will they be? So it is with those who stored up treasures for themselves, but are not rich toward God."
Yeah. And that last statement, so it is with those who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich toward God. I think that definitely is the one that kind of reaches into both the Ecclesiastes and the Psalm and even the Colossians, because the Colossians is kind of saying, hey, are you going to live selfishly, all focused toward yourself? Or are you going to, live as God has given us the gift to live? So
In the Bible, what part is when it says it's easier for a camel to go through an eye of a needle than it is for a rich man
that's
to go
still
through
coming
the
up.
eye?
We might, I don't remember if we get it in our readings this year, but definitely it is in Luke's gospel
It's
for
not saying that
sure.
you can't go there, but it's saying that
Hmm.
if you have money, you need to do the right thing.
Well, it says it's riches can be a distraction. Money can be a distraction, and we're actually going to hear more of those. There are probably more stories like that in Luke's gospel than the others. That just there are. This story is unique. This is only in Luke's gospel story, and so so what kicks it off though, what instigates Jesus telling it is someone is saying, Jesus, I want more of my inheritance. I want my brother to give me more inheritance. And the thing is, to us, there's disputes about inheritance all the time, sadly. But the thing is, back then, it was kind of, I don't think they had literal wills. I don't think they even had that yet. It was like, okay, the oldest son got the vast portion of the property, and then the rest of them got the other part divided. So maybe I don't think they could dispute what the oldest son got. That I don't think that was a thing you could dispute. Maybe it was a dispute between the rest of it, like who got what out of the rest of it. Maybe that was the dispute. But Jesus seems to be warning about being. The word greed comes in. Like this person apparently was being greedy, kind of like, yeah.
What I found interesting, if you look at there's a multitude of people, and Jesus is doing this sermon, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden, this person who's not paying attention to anything says, "But
Hey,
and
wait."
it has nothing to do with what he's talking about." So he wasn't paying any attention to
Yeah,
what Jesus,
yeah.
and it was obviously
He was
so
he was
ate
all caught up in
so
his own
ate up
issues, like, yeah.
with this inheritance
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
that he just was like, where did that come from?
What you mean? Like I'm preaching and people's minds might be on something else?
But at least they keep to themselves.
Yes, they don't go.
Understand
Hey,
what I'm saying.
Pastor
Hey,
Diane. By the way, what do you think of?
What does this have to do with anything?
There's something to that. That's true. So anyway, that's what kicks in the story. But then here's one of the parables of many parables that Jesus told. But this one is unique to Luke's gospel. And so the thing starts out, the man has he's rich already, and then he has an extra really good year. Things are really, really good. And then now, so it's not ever saying that being rich is the problem itself in and of itself, but it's more about like how is it handled. I think that's really more the true issue of what's going on here.
And you notice all the I's and me and me and
me, my soul, me, my. Yeah.
Every once you think about, oh, I got extra this time. Maybe I ought to just.
Could I have done something to help the poor?
So I don't
Could I have
need
done
another barn. I've got enough.
Yeah, yeah. It's all about controlling it, and it's all about himself. And I think it's also a little bit in that aspect of not appreciating just the goodness of the moment. It's all about I got to do all this stuff so I'm ready for the future. And it's yeah. So, and again, it's nothing to say. I mean, if you've been blessed with more abundance, good. But what are you going to do with it? And there's no thought of God. There's no thought of other people. There's no thought of other family. There's no thought of the people who are very vulnerable, or the less off kind of situation. Yeah, it's so self-centered, self-absorbed, very, very self-absorbed. So and then if we take that, okay, so we don't want to copy this guy's example. So, but the question would be, when it says treasure, okay, we could start treasures for ourselves. But what do you think being rich toward God? What would be that in our lives? What would be being rich toward God include? That
Loving your neighbor.
loving your neighbor.
You know, you it's okay to amass things that help you, but at a certain point, enough's enough.
Mm-hmm,
You have more than enough. You
yeah.
recognize the poor, do you know, whether it be time, money, or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you have,
Mm-hmm.
if you have excess of time, as an example, donate time.
Yeah, so I do know I often flip immediately to money as the core, which it is a big part of it, but I think that's a good reminder that the abundance it could be we have free time. How might we use it to serve others, volunteer somewhere, be helpful to someone, call someone up who you know was going through a rough time and just talk to them, support them.
Jeannie's an example of it.
Yeah, Jeannie does that a lot. She gives helpfulness to people, being helpful to others. Yeah. So being rich toward God is I like to also keep in mind is God has already been very generous to us. You know, God has given us so many things. And again, that might be part of our our homes, our bank accounts, our work that we get to do. I mean, there's a lot of those type of things, but I also think of it more in the faith perspective of the gift of everlasting life, the gift of forgiveness, the gift of love, the gift of mercy, the gift of listening to us when we pray. There's so many blessings that God has given us. So from those blessings too, how do we, instead of trying to hold that like just to myself? And sometimes, sadly, people do. They're very grateful for the forgiveness God gives, but boy, are they going to forgive that person who did that so and so? Like they're not. And that's just like storing it up to themselves instead of sharing that forgiveness. The forgiveness that we receive is always meant to end up being shared.
It's like in the Lord's Prayer, forgive us our
First-
trespasses
as
as
we
forgive
yes,
those who
yeah.
trespass against.
Mhm.
So if we don't forgive those,
And so important, Jesus put it in the prayer. Yeah.
You know, the area I live in, there's a lot of homeless people.
Mm-hmm.
And every day I count my blessings when I walk up there.
Yeah.
They're on the sidewalk every day.
Yeah.
But you notice a lot of those homeless people when I go by,
Mm-hmm.
you used to see how many of them are trying to help each other.
You do see that, this
They're all
is
trying to
true.
help each other.
Yeah. Yeah. When when we were still doing the Mexico mission trip, one of the things that always affected me quite a bit, made me really be wondering about like my own house and how much stuff I have, is, we were there. These people often had so little compared to what we consider the norm. And yet, in a way, they, like you just described, there was a sense of community, a love of family, helpfulness that, like in other way, they may have been poor, technically poor, by our standards, but they had a lot that was so good that I could see. And it kind of made you realize, like, okay, what does matter? Is it the bigger house? Is it the fancy car? Is it, and you kind of go like, it really made you stop and get perspective on like what really matters most of all. But at the same time, what we were able to give them, which was a better, sturdier, safer home, what that could trigger would be better health, because they would be less susceptible to the weather, to the elements. Better chance for their children to get education. It just a simple thing that we did. It wasn't a fancy home by any means, but just that one little boost could have a ripple effect of more things improving, for the family. So, but it also, so I knew we were giving them something that would really help them, but at the same time, I was also thinking like, yeah, and I could probably get by with so much less in my life. So, yeah, and I don't want to be like, oh, go on a big guilt trip, but I do want to be thoughtful. And again, I try to hold on to how can I be generous and not be like tight-fisted with, how God has blessed our family, and how can we turn that around and be helping others. So, and thank the Lord that that's a lot of what Christians do know and understand, because like Lutheran Social Services, our World Hunger Appeal, I mean, there is a lot of giving that happens and a lot of lifting up that happens because of that, feeling drawn to be generous. So, well, speaking of the Lord's Prayer, mentioning the Lord's Prayer, let's close with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And may you have a very blessed week.